Have you ever seen a feather on the ground and immediately thought, oh my God, the universe is trying to tell me something? Or maybe you see 1111 and suddenly you're convinced your entire life is about to change. Well, listen, I say this with love, because not everything is a spiritual message, not everything is a download. And sometimes a feather is just a feather. Well, tonight we're talking about something almost nobody teaches when people begin their spiritual journey. I know because I looked for answers and I could not find anybody who could describe or explain to me what I was going through. And honestly, it's probably one of the most important skills a witch or a spiritual practitioner should and can develop. It's spiritual discernment. And because without spiritual discernment, spirituality can quickly turn into confusion, anxiety, and constantly searching for meaning outside of yourself. So, welcome everybody. Tonight is Witch Talk Live, and I'm Aurora Moon. And this is our weekly space where we talk about witchcraft, spirituality, energy, and real experiences that happen when we walk a spiritual path without the fluff, the fear, or the gatekeeping. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here for a while, you already know we keep things real. So tonight, I think is going to help a lot of people breathe easier because many of you are spiritually aware, but also spiritually overwhelmed. Hands up who gets spiritually overwhelmed. I don't so much anymore. I have plenty of time. So if you're new to this, we've all been there. Anyways, let's talk about spiritual signs, okay? Spiritual discernment is the ability to tell the difference between your intuition, your emotions, whether or not it's fear, whether or not it's ego, we get into our heads sometimes, can be coincidence, and a lot of times it can be genuine spiritual communication. But discernment is not skepticism and it's not disbelief, it's balance. It's learning how to stay spiritually open without becoming spiritually gullible. So when people start awakening, we and we awaken to the spirituality, this awareness that we get can be very overwhelming because it expands faster than what we are when we're trying to ground ourselves. So suddenly we may feel that we start seeing things. So let's say we start noticing numbers. I know I see numbers all the time. And because I've studied numerology, it is something that I'll take notice, especially if I'm driving and I see those exact same numbers over and over and over again. Now, if I only see them once, I'm not looking at every single car that passes me and say, oh, that's a spiritual number. Oh, that's my angel number. Oh, they're trying to tell me something. We can't. It's the numbers or the patterns or the symbols that we're seeing on a repeat basis. So it's a pattern recognition that we want our brain to go into. And that makes us start questioning, is it actually a sign or is it something that I shouldn't be worried about? Let's say you see a penny on the ground. Oh my goodness, that's a sign for my angels. Maybe if you start seeing a whole bunch of pennies on the ground, otherwise it's just a penny on the ground. So we can't look at everything as being a sign because otherwise you're going to miss out on the signs that you are seeing. You're going to get stuck in that mode where every little corner that you turn, it has to represent something. No, as much as I would love for it to be in certain instances, but if we don't pay attention to the actual signs that we're getting, we're going to miss out on everything else because we're focused on just one thing thinking it's a sign when it's not. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys an example because I actually had a person reach out to me. It's a friend from years ago, and she actually thought it was a curse. And I'm bringing this up for a reason because everything that was happening was one thing after another. Now, you can look at that as a sign, as it's a curse, or you can look at it as, well, is your car old? Is your, have you kept up with the maintenance of your appliances? Because if not, and you've seen those signs that something was going on, and then you push it to the back of your head because you didn't think it was sign enough, then you're going to have a big bill at the end because you missed your opportunity to fix something when it could have been fixed in that moment. Otherwise, it gets left behind and then it can become this big scramble. And then you might you might think that it's something other than what it is. Or you see the things that you're seeing. So suppose you see a number and you're driving. Now, one number that I see on a regular basis is 787, 787, and 767. Now, if I only saw those numbers once, I wouldn't think anything of it. But if I'm driving and I see those numbers again, and I just happen to look and I see those numbers going, huh, this is the second time I saw that today. And then I'm driving a little bit further, and then all of a sudden I see the exact same number somewhere else. There's only so many numbers that can be in a city. So if it comes your way, I would then say, okay, what does this want me to pay attention to? Now, I know what 767 and 787 means to me. It means don't quit before the miracle and money is flowing in your direction. You're on the right path. So, I'm going to trust that those numbers came to me for a reason and for me not to do anything more until I see another sign. And maybe that sign is another reminder that I'm on the right track, or maybe it's a sign for me to take notice enough for me to then maybe act on it. Now, this might be turning a different way, and you come across this quaint little store that you've never seen before, and you walk in and you meet an old friend. Those are all signs. But when your mind starts to ask, what does this mean? Is this trying to reach me? Am I missing a message? The truth is, the human brain is literally designed to find patterns in even the non-existent stuff. So spirituality without the discernment can turn it into a constant interpretation. And then you get busy in that. It becomes exhausting, right? You don't want to sit there and look at the sign every single time and think that it means something without taking any action. So I want to gently normalize something for you. For instance, not every crow is a prophecy. Seeing a crow does not always mean that there's transformation coming. A song on the radio is not always a message from spirit, and repeating numbers do not always mean that something or someone's going to become famous. Sometimes it does, but not all the time. Okay. So if you've noticed a crow because maybe you were already thinking about crows. Maybe one had passed you before and then you see another one. It doesn't always mean that there's something death coming or there's changes coming, because crows can represent a whole bunch of things. Maybe it just wanted you to pay attention. Maybe it's a pretty bird. That's it. Pretty bird. And you are just meant to go on your day. Now, maybe during that moment you see the bird and you stop for a moment, you gaze at it and you think, oh my God, that's amazing. And then you look down and there's a $20 bill. Okay, it got you to stop, think, and kind of just quiet your mind enough to wonder if there was anything else. And then voila, you found something. So let's start talking about intuition, because intuition your sign of intuition, the best way I know how to explain it is it's quiet, it's gentle, it whispers, where fear will shout. If you're acting on a fear, you're going to feel anxious. You're going to feel like you're missing out on something. You got to get going on something, where your intuition is going to feel more quiet, calm, and you're going to feel more clear too. It's more neutral, right? Where the fears might feel like you're demanding that action, and you feel like I said, you're missing out on something, and then you're not actually listening to what you want. You're afraid that if you don't take the sign, then you're missing the sign. That's not alignment. That is not your intuition speaking. That is more of your ego coming in, thinking that you have to take notice. Think this is all your head. Intuition comes from within. So when you're going on gut, if something doesn't feel right to you, I'm going to say 9 out of you 10 people that are watching, going to say that you've acted out on your intuition, that something out of nowhere just caught your attention and you decided to do that, and you missed your flight, and the plane went down. That's following your intuition. You weren't in a fear based space in that moment. You were thinking clearly, you felt it, you acted on something saying, hey, something doesn't feel right, and I'm not going to go with this. There's no pressure. You're not in a panic. That's the difference. And I know that sounds really, really weird to say, because, but spirit doesn't scream at you, okay? as they're relaxing. They're behind me. I can feel them. But guidance is natural. Feeling calm, relaxed when you're getting information. And guys, I know that I've said this tons of times before, and I know that you don't like it, but it's the only way you are going to be able to really tell the difference whether or not you're connecting or you're not. And that is to meditate. It is to meditate. And I've heard so many of you say, well, I can't meditate. You can't, or you can't sit still for more than 5 seconds, and you're antsy and you want to get up because you think you're doing it wrong, or you think that it's instant. It's not instant. It takes time, it takes practice, and it takes relaxing. And if you can just lie on the couch and maybe not totally fall asleep, but just relax enough to allow that energy come in, you'll be amazed of what you will actually connect with. That might freak you out a little bit more, but that will be genuine, because ego is not loud, or sorry, ego is loud. Your guidance is not. Now, sometimes what we call a sign is actually our ego. It's our ego looking for reassurance. We want confirmation. And that is so hard for somebody who is trying to study their intuition, because we want that confirmation. We want to feel special. We want to feel like we're on the right path. But let me tell you that it is a lot easier to tune in when you're relaxed and not thinking about it so much than if you're forcing it on yourself. Because real guidance will feel grounded, like grounded. It's not going to make you feel like you're airy. And I know that sounds weird coming from a higher being or higher intuition, right? Because you're vibrating on a higher level, but that grounding is going to make you feel connected, because it's not just above here, as above, so below. So the so below is making sure that you're grounded into your energy, grounded into your space, vision your feet as they're growing roots so that you can anchor yourself, and then pretend you're a tree and put your arms up in an outreach as if you are growing branches and growing leaves from those branches. That is what spirit is. It's ever expanding. But the only way you can grow is if you're rooted, just like a tree. It's the best example I can give you. If you have your feet grounded in and you can consciously get that information, and believe me, I've caught myself off guard more than a few times with my own intuition when I was first starting to develop it, because it came at different stages. But I don't ever doubt my intuition ever anymore. If anybody questions it, that's their issue. I don't question mine. And that's because I know what my yeses are. I know what my nos are. I know whether or not something feels good, not to surround myself in that energy. I know if something is bad, I don't walk towards the light. You know what I'm saying? That's where you have to remind yourself that you are that power source. You can get your power from any direction. But if you are not grounded, it's easy to push you over. You're not going to be rooted enough to be able to discern all that information. And remember, like I talked about last week, not every spiritual guide or spiritual entity or ally that comes to you is genuine. And if you haven't seen that video, you can check it out. It was last week's about angels and spirits, and even starseed family we talked about. But not every energy that comes at you is good. So it's more important to know how to discern between what is right and what's wrong. And I know you guys know that if it doesn't feel right, that's what it is. The problem we have a lot is we question ourselves. We look for that validation, and if we don't get it, we think that we're wrong. Don't think that. Pay attention to your signs. Do you get tingles? Do you get a buzzing in your ear? I get tingles throughout my body. As soon as I say anything that I know that is resonating and I need to continue exactly what I'm saying, sometimes spirit will just come right through me and start speaking. And I don't even realize what I'm saying until I know that that's what they're doing. And then I just let it all out. And then I'm like, oh my God, that sounded really enlightening. I surprise myself. I do. I surprise myself sometimes. Now, empaths especially struggle. And we've talked about this multiple times, how important it is to ground, protect, cut cords, to use discernment. Okay. So if you're an empath, and I guarantee most of you who are here are empaths, okay, you walk into a room and you suddenly feel heavy or emotional. I've walked into a room and just started crying. It was so weird. But it was because I was picking up somebody and I didn't protect my energy to realize that that wasn't my energy that I was picking up. So that's why it's important. We pick up collective energy, and not every energetic shift is mystical. Sometimes it's psychological, sometimes it's emotional, and recognizing that actually strengthens your power. So real spiritual communications tend to have, let's just say, consistency, repetition, emotional neutrality, and clear relevance in your life. If it doesn't make sense to you, it's not yours. Okay, something might just come in random and you take notice, and maybe that's all it was meant for. One time events, you don't need to stretch into more meaning, because that's exactly what they are. Now, if it sticks out, if you meet somebody and it sticks out, you can keep it in the back of your head. Don't stop your life to wonder about it. If something or someone comes into your life and something just triggers, but you're not sure exactly what it is right now, maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, but let it sit. See where it goes. Recognize that that energy is there. Recognize that there might be something more to discover or stay away from, because it can go both ways. And because spirit only communicates clearly, they don't they don't make you guess. They're not designed to confuse you. They want to give you a clear sign. So I've had it where I've walked into a room and out of nowhere, and this is just a regular bedroom. Nothing was around, and I would smell peaches or an apple scent. And there's no candles, no nothing, and you'd be like, "Where did that come from?" Well, maybe your grandmother made apple pie, and you're smelling that homemade apple pie, and because she's just letting you know that she's there. That's just somebody coming to visit. That's not somebody giving you a sign to do something. But if you get stuck on it, you don't live your life, right? If you need to live your life, so don't get stuck in the little things. Now, if it comes back, like I said, repetition. Um, I know you guys, most of you girls, I should say, not guys. Guys might not have watched this, but most girls have watched Serendipity, where you put something, somebody, I think it was a name or a phone number in a book. This was years ago. I can't remember exact in the book, but I remember, I think it was a phone number, and it was meant that if that person, after years or getting it passed down throughout, I think it was at a bookstore or something, that if it landed in their hands again, then it was meant to be. Yeah, I get shivers on that. Those are not coincidences. Those are signs. If all of a sudden that book comes back around and you're like, "Oh my god, I just got that." Yet but it might have taken 6 months, it might have taken 6 years. That would be a sign. But sometimes people move on and people do things, those moments aren't there for those reasons, because there's something that you need to learn in the process. So, and I know that I've talked about this last episode. Again, for those of you who haven't watched the last episode or wasn't there for last week's, we did what is called, well, I spoke about the 24-hour rule. It's the universal rule of 3, where we check in anytime a spiritual entity comes in to communicate with us, whether or not they're genuine. So when you do that and you're still getting that information, you're going to ask yourself, how's my body feeling? Is my body feeling tense? Am I relaxed? Because those are things that you should be looking at too, because your nervous system will always know before your mind does. So if you're wondering whether or not these messages that are coming in are actually messages, just wait. Give it time. If you see the number caught your, just say it was, a lot of you guys see 1 or 1111. Okay. But let's say you're out for a drive and you see 123 and you caught notice of it. And then you went around the corner and then again, you saw the same number. And then you came home and the time was 123. Then I'd be looking at it going, okay, is this just coincidence for today? Could be. The timing of me going and doing these things and coming back, maybe. But I'm not going to jump on it. I'm just going to settle my mind. I'm going to ask my spirit and guides if they are the proper channel or entity that's coming in, the energy that's coming in, whether or not it's genuine. I'm going to ask my body how I feel about it. And I'm going to ask for another sign. Now, if I see the next sign, then I'm going to say, oh, okay, you got my attention now. What do you want me to do? And I'll wait, because your next step will always flow. Your next step will always flow. It will never be forced on you. Okay. Remember, discernment doesn't disconnect you from spirit. It deepens the connection because you are trusting your thoughts, your process, who you're communicating with, because you've already done all the legwork before that. And this will get easier. You're going to find that if you do this stuff daily, you can get all this done. You can get your cleansing, your grounding, your protection, your communicating with spirit, all under one umbrella within 5 minutes, if that. Now, one little trick that I've learned, if you are somebody who constantly receives information, I want you to start visualizing an on off switch. I used to get messages throughout the night and I would have a hard time sleeping because I was constantly getting messages. So, what I started doing is I started envisioning an on off switch, that when I don't want to communicate, I don't want to be bothered, I don't want to be overwhelmed with energy and emotions, turn that switch off. And that switch stays off for majority of the day. The only time that switch turns on is when I have to check in with something. So I'll turn it on, and this is all visual, guys. Okay, this isn't an actual physical switch that you're turning on and off. You're looking into your mind's eye to say, okay, I don't need to constantly have these feelings and emotions come at me. So use this as your way of disconnecting, not totally disconnecting. Remember, it's discernment. You don't need this information, it's not for you. So turn it off so you're not bombarded and exhausted by the communication that you might be receiving. Just click it off. And when you want to check in, remember, they don't own you, you own you. So don't let them push past your boundaries. Remember, spiritual connections can do the same thing. And you might say, oh, I'm constantly connecting, I know I'm an empath. Well, what are you doing about it? You are the one who holds the power. You don't need them to constantly connect with you. Shut them off. Get some sleep. When you get up in the morning, grab your shower. You don't need them bugging you. Then you turn it on if you want to communicate. I have mine off all the time unless I want to go into my my connections. And I do that when I'm coming into my space or if I'm making a decision about something, but I don't need to leave it on. You don't pick up the phone and communicate constantly, right? You put it down. Unless some of you girls are talking with a boyfriend all hours of the night, and that's a little different. You're going to get tired doing that. Put the phone down. You do not need to constantly be in communication with spirits or anything like that. It is not going to change you from being an empath. What it's going to do is help control your feelings and emotions and recognize that they're not yours. Yours is controlled in your box, so you don't need to. And this is all a part of it. Start trusting your own inner knowledge. That is where your real magic lies. Remember, spiritual maturity isn't seeing signs everywhere. It's knowing when something actually is a sign. You don't need constant validation from the universe. You're already connected. You're already guided. You're already enough. Okay? So tonight, that's all I have to say. If tonight resonated with you, let me know in the chat below. I will always message you back. I will always get back to you if you need me to. Ask questions. I'm just checking out. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm seeing, oh, Linda, so happy that you joined us. We got Katie, Donna. No, Donna, I'm so glad you're joining us again. I know you needed it as much as we did, right? And if anybody I missed, I know I know Sherry and Jay are on like right away. Manny, you guys are amazing. And if I missed any of you guys, I'm not trying to. I see Acme Hi-Fi. I'm not sure if Amy's here. Oh, Kimberly, Land the Gray. Thanks for coming. Love to see you here. Another witch in my area. I'm not exactly sure how far away you are, hun, but I know that you're not too far. But guys, just remember, you have the power. You don't need to allow every information to come at you. Put it down, let your mind rest, and remind yourself that you're not disconnecting from the whole universe when you're doing that. It's boundaries. You don't need to be bugged all the time, right? Shut it off. If you want to, start with turning it on first thing in the morning, turning it off when you go to work so you're not having all this energy coming at you. Turn it off when you get home, whatever you want, but test it out. See how it works for you and let me know down in the comments below. If you want to see something that I haven't done yet, leave the comments in and I will hopefully be able to put it on my list. But I'm trying to go in an order for you guys to kind of have as a sequence so that it's easier for you to find. And remember, Mercury retrograde just started today. So we're in for 3 weeks of this. Make sure that you read over contracts, make sure that you don't go too fast, make sure communication is open, dot your I's, cross your T's, and I love y'all. See you next week, guys.